Through grit and unabated determination, Sega in the United States went from less than 10% of the video game market share to over 50% in a matter of a few years. This was largely due to its president, Tom Kalinske, and his intrepid team which made up Sega of America. The journey from underdog to champs and on back down again is documented in Console Wars, Sega, Nintendo, and the battle that defined a generation. Though the novel focuses most of its time from the Sega Genesis on up to the Sega Saturn, which is talked about quite close to the end, along with the competitors' consoles, influential decision-makers on all sides, and some famous games of that time, this is very much a Sega of America narrative, mostly centering in on the aforementioned protagonist, Tom Kalinske. Bearing that in mind, it seems like the title is a bit of a misnomer, being that it spends so much time with Sega. However, the name is catchy, so I could see why it stuck. Going back to the point of view choice, this style element is one of its biggest boons. Having a third-person narrative that goes through the real fears of those who are going up against the industry god, Nintendo, and Sega's eventual commercial triumph just before their slow tumble down after the release of the Sega Saturn is poignant in every which way. Of note, this element separates this book from others that have a more distant stance to its viewpoint, such as The Ultimate History of Video Games and Reality is Broken. Though these are good books in their own right, Console Wars delves deeper into human emotion, tipping the pathos meter into the right direction. Also, the pacing is mostly upbeat. One key feature is that almost, if not all, chapters end with a hook that keeps the reader trekking forward. I know, this isn't something unique in writing, but it is greatly appreciated. I've read one too many novels where the pulsing signs beckoning me to go further are missing. Thusly, I found myself having a hard time closing the cover to this book once I started another reading session. Please, authors out there, we need more of this! Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Okay, albeit at times it did seem like the narrative was meandering around a bit, giving too much info over several pages that could have been summed up in a paragraph or two. These were the few times that the pacing felt choppy. On the flip side, the amount of time it must have taken to collect everything and put it in a mostly digestible layout is a staggering feat. So perhaps the author felt like he needed to add as much information as possible? Still, I think it could have been left out. However, the text is bolstered by a not getting in the way, breezy style of writing. Often I could read through several chapters without having to reach for a dictionary all the time. To give you an idea, here's their first sentence of the prologue. Quote, "In 1987, Tom Kalinske was at a crossroads." End quote. Boom. Done. Direct, isn't it? Though I wouldn't say that his writing style is Hemingway-ish, it is, nonetheless, lucid and natural. I'm not sure if this was a deliberate action from the author or just his organic prose. I'm thinking it's the latter, but hey, I liked it. Another pro, the stream of information was just that, a stream, not a gushing river, not a sea or an ocean, a placid stream. The author introduced chapters where Sega of America and or Sega of Japan brainstormed ideas around that eventually led to concrete software, hardware, or advertising. Take Sonic for instance, the blue hedgehog that stole some camera flashes from Mario. His conception came about when there was a contest amongst some of the employees to come up with a character that could be the gaming face of Sega. After some internecine over how Sonic should look, he, along with his game he starred in, eventually finalized and was published. The result? The US went Sonic crazy. This in turn helped solidify the company as a major contender to Nintendo's gold flake crown. The author spans this out over several pages, keeping it so that the reader feels like they're tagging along in the passenger seat, rather than being dragged by a rope attached to the back of the car. If you can't already tell, this novel is superb. With the minor critiques aside, the story is like few others in the literary gaming sphere, perhaps due to there being few others. But that's okay. It is more than good enough to stand on its own. If you've always wanted a more apparition-like angle on what was happening during this nascent time, which undoubtedly led us to where we're at today, you have to pick up this book. Or if you just like good stories, you have to pick up this book. Though I would suggest you have some beforehand knowledge of gaming so you don't get too lost. All said, this is a wondrous telling of the times, through and through.